I'm Corbett Wall with DVAuction, here with your feeder flash for Tuesday, September the 3rd, brought to you in part by Kansas Regenerative Medical Center. Kansas RMC's focus is on arthritis and orthopedic issues for your joints, back and neck and the like. 60% of their patients are farmers and ranchers. Check them out, guys, kansasrmc.com. Beaver County Stockyards also another good sale for them right after the holiday Monday. About 3,200 head for their cattle auction on Tuesday. About 2,000 calves, and this will be the first week that they had more calves than yearlings, and that's going to be seen all over the country now as we've unofficially moved into fall. But the calf run will be starting right away, and like I said, 2,000 calves in Beaver, Oklahoma. Most of them will be weighing from 400 to 600 pounds and predominantly unweaned. About 80% of them will not be weaned, but they will be mostly high in quality, and about 80% of them will have at least one round of shots in them. So there'll be some nice calves there, including one big consignment, 240 steer calves from Borger, Texas, coming in there. They're going to be mostly F1s, black baldies, be in the 5 weights there. Really nice set of calves that they've sold the yearlings off of before, and then getting to sell the calf crop. Getting a lot of new customers in there at Beaver, Oklahoma, guys. They got about 800 head of yearlings, be about half and half steers and heifers. The heifers weighing from 7 and in the 8s, mostly the steers in the 8s and the 9s. Did talk to Lane Conkle, said there'll be a few grazing yearlings in the mix and some smaller groups there, and just about a couple hundred head for the cow sale after cows and bulls there. Be a handful of bred cows and pairs, but nothing really particular to talk about. But big sale next Tuesday. That's going to be the Feeder Flash Beaver Clash Special. And they're going to have a lot of yearlings. They could already have maybe 3,000 yearlings or more for that, and probably that many calves too. So big special next Tuesday at Beaver County Stockyards, but a good sale here today on Tuesday. Check them out, guys, DVAuction.com. Pressure at all levels, and I'm meaning all levels. I'm talking about cash, and not just the board this time. Actually, the board was higher last week, but we're seeing pressure at all levels. I'm talking about wholesale beef, your fat cattle, and then all classes of feeder cattle, both yearling feeders and calves. Just, but you hate to see that when we see cash pressure there. We don't have anybody to blame but ourselves right there. But I think most of it was brought on by your northern feedlots selling fat cattle so much cheaper. They pretty much eliminated the north-south premium there that we've been running here for months and months. But they sold cattle quite a bit lower. Now the southern plains, they didn't sell very many cattle, but the few they sold in a negotiated manner were steady with the previous week. But you know, it's just when your feeder buyers, especially your calf buyers, all of them look and they see that the fat cattle are losing dollars and dollars at a time, it sure makes them back up a little bit. And yes, we can blame the board for starting all this cascading of prices we've been in for the last probably a month, 3 weeks for sure, where we saw the board, you know, just all of a sudden one day be, you know, $4 lower, maybe $6 or $7 lower on some out fronts. Then it bounces around, we get a little bit of that back, and then maybe do it again. But I've told you guys, whenever we see those bounces, and especially on your out fronts, and we did late in the week, this past week, we saw some pretty nice bounce in your out front months, and you need to take that opportunity to get you some LRPs, guys, get some protection, take a hedge if you're feeding cattle, but on turnout cattle, grazing cattle, or cattle that you're backgrounding, I think the LRP is the best way to go on that. It is definitely saving some people here just in this this lower market that we've seen for the last month or so. got some guys that are sure glad they took that out. It is paying off. They're still trying to sell their cattle as high as they can, but they're getting a check on their LRPs once they sell those cattle, because you know, they took that basically insurance out there several months ago. But you know, we're just in a lower market. I've been saying that. I don't want to be bearish, guys, but I don't want you guys to think that this thing is going to bounce back. It's definitely, you're going to see more pressure than it is support. Well, we're going in, like I said when I was talking about Beaver County stockyards, we're going into the fall run now. That is going to be calves predominantly, and a lot of them ballers. That does not promote higher feeder markets when we see a lot of fat balling calves come to market, guys. And then within just a few weeks here, we're going to see these huge changes in weather patterns, where we're going to have maybe 60 or 70 degree swings within 24 hours. And then that brings about the health problems, stress on new cattle, new arrivals. October is always the worst, but it starts in September. We're here in September. Tell you what, I didn't break out the felt hat over the weekend, but I was in Ruidoso at the yearling sale there, and it was cold. On Saturday evening, it was cold, and I didn't reach for my coat, so I could keep my straw hat on, and I'm glad I did, because I got another few weeks here of some pretty warm temperatures. But tell you what, the temperature's changing, and it feels like maybe an early fall. But you know, we're not going to see a market rally when you got droves of fat calves coming to market. Now, you normally don't see market rally on corn right during harvest. Now, you have before, but that was in a disappointing harvest. But I don't think we're going to see any disappointment on yields. Everybody that's went out and crop toured, and everybody you talk to says the corn looks fantastic everywhere. They're just starting to get the combines rolling up in the lower edges of the corn belt, and I think it's going to be very impressive as far as yields, but it's going to be hard on your price for corn. That is about the only real bullish thing we see right now in the cattle business is cheaper feed. And people got abundance of hay this year. The hay crop was good in most places. If you didn't get hay put up, there's hay readily available for purchase. And you might have to put some wheels under it, which always takes the fun out of it. But we are going to have cheaper feed rations going into this fall, guys, and last for most of the next year here. But just to be prepared for this market. Let's go into this down market. Of course, we've been in it for a while already, but as we continue through it, let's do it with our head up, our eyes open, taking advantages to protect yourself where you can, and taking the best opportunity to sell cattle when you can. If you're selling calves or yearlings, there's still very, very good demand for grass yearlings. If you've got them, you're not going to be selling them too far back from these all-time high prices that we set here just several weeks ago. Calves are going to have a lot of competition here, but don't worry so much about whether the market's down one week or up the next week. You know, if the market's going lower and we're moving lower, just because it was higher the day you sold them doesn't mean that that was the best opportunity to sell your cattle. Find if you're selling them, especially in a sale barn, find out when they're going to have some other nice consignments of cattle to build around. Use your neighbor's big consignment of fancy calves as bait to help sell yours. And those big consignments of fancy cattle, they bring the buyers in, and then that'll help sell your cattle too. So that's the best way to kind of look around and use your skills when you're getting ready to sell. These feeder buyers and even calf buyers, they don't get full so much, and trucks are readily available right now. Now, maybe not be that way later in the fall, especially in the northern plains, but right now they don't get full. Find out if there's some nice consignments coming in there, have your cattle ready to go. Have a very close relationship with your commission agent, your market man at the sale barn, or whoever you're working through. Find out what he knows. When are some other nice cattle coming in? Do you know any buyers that are looking for a certain thing? Let him know what you've got to sell, and tell him that you're a little bit flexible whenever you're going to sell those, and then he can try to help you. But we're going into the calf run, the fall calf run, guys, and it's under pressure also. I wanted to mention that an old friend of ours, and I say ours, me and my father's been dead almost 15 years, but somebody we did business with a lot whenever I was young, was Bill Ross, that owned Ross Cattle Company. They were a shipper out of Jackson, Mississippi. He passed away over the weekend. Bill Ross would come out at least once every year and visit us. We would get loads of cattle from him every week. We moved a lot of Bill Ross cattle through our pens there in Clayton, New Mexico. It seemed like we would never get done straightening those light calves up. Of course, they didn't cost a lot of dollars then, and we would mostly just peddle them by the head out of our pens there. But at least 2 or 3 loads a week when cattle were moving, we'd be getting cattle from Bill Ross, and he became a friend of ours, and he did a good job sending us cattle. Now, people say, well, cattle, we've got better medicine. Maybe cattle don't get as sick anymore. I don't know. Seemed like cattle shipped in out of the southeast always got sick. They always got sick on us back then, but we had pretty primitive medicines. Penicillin, Specdam, Tylen, the old stuff that we used to use, and it did work to a certain extent. Well, we get better medicines, and then the bugs get better too. But they've got some really good stuff on the market now. We advertise for several of it that works very well. But it's a frustrating process trying to straighten up high-risk cattle. We did a lot of that. We would order a lot of black baldy heifers from there, sort on them. I remember at least 3 years in a row we had the highest selling stocker heifers at the old Bell Ringer special at National Western in Denver. And every one of them would come through Bill Ross Cattle Company there in Jackson, Mississippi. So for those friends and family of him, just remembering him fondly there. Also over the long weekend, I had a rare day off there. I had an opportunity to go see the Reagan movie. I highly recommend all of you to go see the Reagan movie. It was very good. It was not only entertaining, make you laugh, make you cry, and just bring back fond memories there. And I think if enough people go, maybe they'll see the opportunity that we have to elect someone that I'm not saying he's as good as Reagan or even like Reagan, but I think he's just as much of a patriot and can help this country, but not as eloquent as Reagan is, and Reagan was, and not as likable as Reagan was. But guys, we're going into a very, very important election. It's going to mess with the markets. About anything could be expected, but boy, we've got to use our head, guys, and try to elect somebody that is going to help this country stay successful and get pulled up out of all this high inflation and high interest rates and failed borders that we've seen over the last 4 years here. And you guys can send that hate mail, and you can bitch and peck all you want to. It's you guys that do that I'm saying this stuff for, and I can't help it. If you're planning on voting a blue ticket this time, you may need your head examined. Let's talk about your board for all of last week. How about October live cattle futures? Monday was up $1.27. Tuesday was up $2.42. It was kind of the opposite of the previous weeks there, where we saw pressure early in the week and then some higher prices later in the week. But we saw some higher prices earlier in the week, and then it faded off from there. And the higher prices didn't help your north hold their fat cattle market at all. And then by Wednesday, we saw people starting to sell them down 77 cents on October live cattle on Wednesday. Thursday was down 72. Friday was up 70 with some profit taking there. But actually, your October live cattle ended the week at 178.60, which was up $2.90. We lost the August board there, and so now 178.60 is our spot board there for nearby. We still sold cattle on the average in the 5 area, about $5 higher than that. But this board, even though it closed a little bit higher on these back months, it's still a drag on the market. December live cattle ended the week at 177.55. Feeder cattle for September, Monday was up $1.92, Tuesday was up 57 cents, Wednesday was down 62, Thursday down $1.80, Friday up 97 cents. September feeder cattle ended the week at 240.47, up $1.90. October ended the week at 237.75. December corn ended the week at 401, and that was up 10 cents a bushel. Soybeans for November ended the week at $10 a bushel even. That was up 27 cents. Hard red winter wheat for December ended the week at 565 1/4, and that was up 30 1/4 cents a bushel. Fat cattle trade through Thursday, we had traded 47,800 head, which is not very much. Live prices in your fat steers and heifers in the 5 area feeding region, negotiated trade 181 to 185 1/2. That was $1 to $4.50 lower. Weighted average on live steers up through Thursday was 183.74, down about $2 from the previous week's weighted average. Dress sales 288 to 293. That was steady to $2 lower, but the weighted average was much lower than that, about $3.50 lower up through Thursday on limited dress sales with a weighted average of 290.52. Not very good. Then Friday we had a little bit more trade, but it's not going to change things much. About 3,200 in Iowa on Friday early. They sold 17,500 for the week, which is about half what they normally do. May have done some more trade late on Friday. We'll find out. Give that to you on our next feeder flash. But live sales on Friday early in Iowa 181 1/2 to 185. Dress sales 288 to 299. Nebraska sold 1,200 early Friday, 25,800 for the week, about what they normally sell. All they had on a live basis in Nebraska early Friday was some mixed bag pins at 184 and dress sales from 288 to 290. Kansas sold about 500 on Friday, just 6,400 for the week. 183 was the price, which was steady with the previous week. Texas sold another 300 on Friday, only 3,300 for the week, and 183 was the price. Box beef cutout values sharply lower last week. On your weighted average, choice cuts, all of last week's sales in your weighted average was 310.63. That was $5.20 lower than the previous week's weighted average. And your late Friday sales were about another $1.30 lower than that weighted average at 309.34 on Friday afternoon. Select cuts, all of last week's sales weighted average was 298.02, $3.30 lower on your weighted average in the previous week. And your late Friday sales were more than $2 lower than that at 295.82. Choice select spread on your weighted average of last week was $12.61. All of that gathered on 674 loads of cuts, grinds, and trimmings. Maybe a bit better. They're about average was what we normally sell. Slaughter last week, 611,000 estimated. That was 3,000 more than the previous week, 20,000 less than the same week a year ago. Talk about what else is going on. I hope you guys enjoyed last month's Punchy Pick of the Month contest. Congratulations to the winner there. And don't forget to get your picks in for this month's contest. You see a pick out doing your chores, working cattle or whatever. If it looks punchy, email that picture to punchy@nationalbeefwire.com. Automatically enters you to win the giant box full of swag from Beaver Feed Company in Beaver, Oklahoma, Beaver County Stockyards in Beaver, Oklahoma, National Beef Wire, Feeder Flash, the whole case of Fair Peace, the revolutionary product that's scientifically proven. I'll try to remember to attach a video about Fair Peace at the end of this episode of the Feeder Flash. Let's talk about your feeder markets. Your real-time index ended the week last week, based on an 800-pound cash auction steers, ended the week last week at 242.92, with dwindling sales over the weekend, and then pretty much everywhere closed on Monday. But that ending at 242.92 was $1.12 higher than the end of the previous week. And your latest CME cash feeder cattle index, if you guys are trying to track that, just look at your RTI. It was 242.95 after we kind of settled down there and didn't have too much sales. That is 3 cents a hundred off of your real-time index. You think it's not doing a good job of telling you what that CME cash feeder cattle index is going to be? Your cash feeders last week was the opposite of the board. It was lower early in the week with pressure from the previous week, and then closed higher later in the week. With your late sales selling higher than the previous week. So it was kind of a mixed bag on your trends in your auction sales last week. You got off late in the week, and we didn't have a whole lot. About the only decent sale that we saw real late in the week or over the weekend was Crawford Livestock Market. My friends at Robertson's there, they sold 2,600 head there in Crawford, Nebraska. Had a good sale. Market Reporter called it steady to firm. Several top quotes in there. There were 64 spayed heifers in Crawford, Nebraska on Friday. They weighed 817 pounds and bring 239.50, guys. But the highest quote that I saw late last week over the weekend was also from Crawford, Nebraska, with not too many sales having anything, and then hardly anybody at all on Monday open. But your Macrocin, no BS, top quote for the week, top quote for late last week or over the weekend was also Crawford Livestock Market in Crawford, Nebraska. It was 138 steers, weighed 755 and bring 276. And that's your feeder flash for Tuesday.
This is the bunk line of the calves that have received Therapies 48 hours ago. He just fed them. This is the bunk line of the calves who did not receive Therapies, and he literally just fed them too. And they finally have just come up to bunk. Again, calves with Therapies. The bunk line is full.